All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to 2P 2D Math with Ms. Gilbert. It is the first lesson of week 2 of our online learning, I guess. I hope you're doing well and I hope your Easter long weekend was lovely. Our lesson today is the third way to solve linear systems of equations, and this is called substitution. Now, I have made a slideshow with this information on it as well, and the blank handout is available on Brightspace. So if you want to print it out so that you can fill it in as we're doing it, or afterwards as you're watching the video, if you can watch it at home. So what I like to call this method is the blob method. I hope you can see that. So you're going to be given two equations, just like with graphing and with elimination. But what I want you to do for substitution is look for an equation that has just an x on the left or just a y. And if there isn't one, the hope is we can create one really easily. If we can do that, then this is the method of choice. Once you have an equation that has x equals something or y equals something, you're going to circle everything on that right-hand side, and that's going to be called the blob. And then you're going to take that blob and put it into the other equation. And then you're going to solve that equation for whichever variable you have left. And then you're going to substitute your answer from step 4 back into your blob to find the other unknown. And then your last step is to state your solution or your point of intersection. And remember, that's going to be in the form x comma y. So let's do a few examples here. The first two examples are going to be fairly simple to get our variable by itself. So example 1, we have these two equations, y plus 2 equals 10 and x plus y equals 12. So let's take a look at these two equations. The first one, it just has y in it, doesn't it? So we're going to use that equation to find y. So step 1 then is to find y using that first equation. So if we have y plus 2 equals to 10, then we can get y by itself by subtracting 2 on both sides. This tells us y equals 8. So good, we already have what y is. So since this equation has an x and a y, we can plug our value for y into this second equation, to find x. I was getting ahead of myself. So step 2 then, step 2 is to find x using the other equation. Okay, so we're going to have x plus y equals to 12, and now we're going to replace our y with our 8 over here. So x plus 8 equals to 12, and now we could figure out what x is. If we subtract 8 on both sides, x must equal to 4. And now we have an x value, we have a y value. So you can put our x value in and our y value, and there is our point of intersection. Just like last time, you can go to Desmos, type these equations in, and see where the two lines cross, and it should be at 4 and 8. So I'm going to write that here. Check with Desmos. Okay? So let's do this second one here. It's going to be very similar, just so you can see the steps again. So if we look at the first equation, it has both x and y in it, but the second one just has x. So let's use equation 2 to find x. So 2x plus x, no, I'm sorry, 2x equals x plus 7. You know what, I am going to white that out if I can find my whiteout, because I'm going to take a picture of this and put it online for you guys, and I want to make sure that you're able to read it. Okay, so what we want to do is get our x's to one side. So I'm going to take this x over by subtracting it from both sides, leaving me with x on this side, because 2x minus 1x is x. And then over on this side, we're just left with 7. So good, we have our x equals 7. So now we're going to use this and equation 1. So use equation 1 and x equals 7 to find y. Okay, so our equation is 3x plus 2y is equal to 33. So now we're going to sub in our 7 for our x. So 3 times, I'm going to write that in red. I should have done that above, shouldn't I? I'll get better at this as I go along. Plus 2y equals to 33. So let's multiply this out. 3 times 7 is 21. Plus 2y is equal to 33. So now we need to get this y by itself. I'm just going to put that over there. So we need to get rid of this 21 first. So subtract 21 both sides, leaving me with 2y on this side. And 33 minus 21 is 12, right? So now, here, remember we have 2y equals 12. Well, to get rid of that 2, we have to divide by 2 on both sides. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. So now our answer, we have x is going to go in the first spot here, and then y is going to go in the second spot. Again, check that with Desmos. Just so you know, I am showing every single step here. If you can do this showing less steps, as long as it makes sense to me, I am okay with that. Okay, let's take a look at a few harder ones. So for example, what if they have two unknowns in both equations? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to find one of these equations to figure out which one is the easiest to isolate for one of the variables. Excuse me. So either of those would be fairly easy to find y by itself or x by itself. I'm going to do it with equation 1. I really suggest you number your equations. That way when you're doing your solutions, it's really easy to follow your steps. So for example, step 1, I am going to use equation 1 and I'm going to solve for y. To solve for y. So I'm going to get y by itself. So if I have negative 2x plus y is equal to 0, well, to get y by itself, I need to get rid of this 2x, don't I? And because it's subtracting, I'm going to add 2x to both sides. So y is going to be 2x. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, because y is equal to 2x, I'm going to use that and put it into equation 2 for y. That way I'm going to find my x. Okay, So I'm going to call this step A. Step B, I'm going to put y equals to 2x into 2, so equation 2, to find x. So we have x minus y is equal to 12. Now I'm going to replace my y with 2x. So x minus 2x equals to 12. Now we're going to combine our like terms. We have x minus 2x. Well, that gives me a negative x left over, equals to 12. And because this is a negative and this is a positive, our positive x is going to be equal to negative 12. Okay, so now we know what x is. We have a value for x. And guess what? In our first step, we figured out what y is in terms of x. So now we can throw our value for x back into this equation and find our y. These do take a lot of practice, so don't get too frustrated with them if you're finding it difficult. For the practice questions, I will write out my solutions just like these with the steps so you can see how I'm doing it. Okay, so our last step is to use y equals 2x and x equals negative 12 to find y. To find y. So y equals 2 times x, which is 2 times negative 12, which is negative 24. So therefore, our solution, we like to call that the point of intersection, or POI, is our x value, negative 12, comma, our y value, negative 24. Okay, so this is more involved, of course. And you might look at this and look at the stuff we did yesterday and be like, well, Ms. Gilbert, if I just add those two, I can get rid of y quickly by elimination. And that's, if you notice that, that's amazing, because that's going to be our next lesson, is to to recognize which of these 3 methods is best for the equations that you have. So yeah, you could absolutely do this by elimination as well. Okay, let's do this equation, this last example. So we're going to do the same steps as we did up here. We're going to choose one of the equations where we can get one of the letters all by itself. And take a look at these. This has a number in front of x. This has a number in front of y. This doesn't have a number in front of x, but this has a number in front of y. So it's, for me, this is already set up for x to be by itself fairly easily, because x is on its own without a number in front of it. So I'm going to use that equation. So I'm going to call this equation 1. And that equation 2. I'm going to use this equation to get x as an equation in terms of y. So use 2 to isolate x. Isolate x. I'm doing this in pen, so I better get this right. Okay, so x minus 3y equals to 10. So to get x by itself, I just need to get rid of this negative 3y. So because it's subtracting, I'm going to add 3y to both sides. So x is 10 plus 3y. Okay. That's our first step. Now this is going to be our blob. Oh, I forgot to circle the blobs, didn't I? That's our blob. This was our blob. I forgot that step. I guess this was our blob. And this was our blob. Okay, so our blob this time is bigger, isn't it? That's okay, because we know what the steps are. It's the exact same steps every time. So I just need to get that set up. It's the exact same steps every time. It's just sometimes the blob might be a little more complicated. So we're going to put the blob into equation 1. Into 1 to find x. To find x. Okay, so equation 1 is 4x minus 7y. Oh, and not x. I'm finding y, aren't I? Yes, I'm sorry. That should say y. Because if I have this if x is as a function of y here, this is going to have a y and that's going to have y. So y is going to be the only one left over. So 4x minus 7y equals 20. So now we are going to put our blob in for x. So 10 plus 3y minus 7y equals 220. Okay, now we have to do algebra here to get the y terms combined and get y by itself. So this could take a few steps, but you guys have the tools in your tool box to do this, okay? So just take it step by step. My first step here is to multiply this 4, okay? Remember, we're going to distribute or multiply that 4 into each term in the bracket. So if you do 4 times 10 plus 4 times 3y minus 7y equals to 20. So 4 times 10 is 40. 4 times 3y is 12y. And then we have minus 7y equals to 20. Let's combine these y terms. 12 minus 7y is 5y equals to 20. Now to get this y by itself, we need to get rid of all the other terms that don't have y in it. So we need to get rid of this 40 first. So minus 40 both sides. This leaves me with 5y on the left, and 20 minus 40 is negative 20. If you kind of struggle with positive and negative numbers, remember you can always throw 20 minus 40 into the calculator, right? There's absolutely no judgment or shame in doing that. I use calculators all the time. So now we need to get rid of this 5. Because it's multiplying the y, we have to divide by 5 on both sides, leaving us with negative 20 divided by 5 is negative 4. Okay, so we have our y value. Okay, so that took a long time to do that second step because it's a more challenging blob. But again, you can do these steps. You have the tools. Just take it slow. If you can do it in less steps, that's totally okay. Okay, our last step then is to put our y equals negative 4 back into our first equation so we can figure out what x is. And I guess I'll do that over here. I'm running out of room. So step C is put y equals negative 4 into x equals 10 plus 3y to find x. Okay, so x is equal to 10 plus 3y. So 10 plus 3 times our y is negative 4. So 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. And 10 minus 12 is negative 2. So therefore, our POI, our wow, I can't even think of the word for it. Point of intersection is x value -2 and y value -4. There. That's a 4. Okay. That was a long one. Last question, I want to show you a special case. If you're given equations in y equals mx plus b form, yes, you can absolutely graph these. If they are in y equals mx plus b form, it may be the easiest thing to do is to graph them. But if you want to do it by algebra, I'm just going to do that. I'll show you how to do that. So because we have y equals and y equals, well, guess what? Y has to equal y. So because y equals y, I can write blob number 1 and blob number 2 are equal to each other. So because y equals y, we can write 2x plus 7 equals -3x plus 4. And now, look, this equation just has x's in it. So we can use this equation to solve for x. Now 2p's, remember, I got you specifically to practice these types of equations that had this format, solving for x. So hopefully you remember that from last unit. So let's get my 3x onto that side. So I'm going to add 3x on both sides. So that gives me 5x plus 7 equals, well, 4 on that side. Now we're going to get rid of this. Sorry, get rid of the 7 first. So we're going to subtract 7 on both sides. So 5x equals, well, 4 minus 7 is -3. And now to get rid of that 5, we're going to divide by 5. So that means our x is -3/5. And yes, you can get fractions for these, and that's okay. So now that was step 1. Oops, let me be clear what I'm writing here. Step 1. Now step 2, we have our x value, so we can plug our x back into either of these equations to find what our y is. It does not matter which one you do, but I'm going to use equation, I don't know, 1. So use equation 1, and I'll call this 1 and this one 2 to find y. Okay, so our equation 1 is 2x plus 7. And now we're going to put in our -3/5 for x and do the math. So 2 times -3/5 plus 7. Okay, so 2 times -3 is -6/5 plus 7. Now remember, to add numbers, if there's a fraction, they have to have the same denominator, right? So we're going to have -6/5. We need to get this to have, oops, not over 5. I'm getting ahead of myself. We want this to have a denominator over 5. And because this is over 1, I had to multiply this by 5 to get the 5. So that means I have to multiply the 7 by 5 to get what's on the top. So now we have -6/5 plus 35/5, which is 29/5. That's our y value. So now our point of intersection is our x value negative 3 over 5. And our y value, 29 over 5. Again, you can plug this into Desmos to double check, or if you want, you can graph them. Okay, so that's it for the lesson. Sorry that lesson was a little long. I just wanted to make sure you had a few examples to go back to. They're all very similar, but I wanted to make sure you had lots of examples to look at and to listen to. So the practice questions are here. It's on the slide and in the handout on Brightspace. I've also included the answers here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and write out the full solutions and post those on Brightspace as well. Your exit card, so the thing for marks for this, lesson. I can't write and talk at the same time. It's on Knowledge Hook. It's a Knowledge Hook mission. This is on the slides, but I'm putting it here. And the Knowledge Hook mission is called Solving by Substitution. Sorry, by Substitution. If you're not sure, your codes are now, this is for the 2Ps. 2P code is now 6247. 6247. And 2D, yours is boom 7986. Okay, so that's going to be for marks at the end of this lesson. It's just 3 little questions, shouldn't take long. Okay, I hope that was really helpful for you guys. If you need to ask me any questions, please use that envelope icon in the top right hand corner of the Brightspace page. And I guess I'll talk to you next time. Okay, bye-bye guys.